Some games are so good that we end up naming entire genres after them. Roguelike, Metroidvania, Souls-like. It's just kind of what happens, but somehow there's an exception.
And the award for excellence in design goes to Outer Wilds.
And the BAFTA goes to Outer Wilds.
Outer Wilds came out in 2019. People still call it one of the greatest games ever made. When it won all of those awards, it had to beat titans like Death Stranding and Sekiro.
So when we started Outer Wilds, we just wanted to make something where the only point of exploring was to learn more about the world, and there would be no objectives, there would be no missions, and we just weren't sure people would be into it.
People were into it, but 7 years later, there's still no such thing as an Outer Wilds-like. And that's not because nobody has tried. Outer Wilds is one of my favorite games of all time, and I've never been able to play it a second time. Those two things are connected, and it took me a long time to work out why. So let's go through the whole thing together, from the campfire to the ending, and I'll show you exactly why. At its core, Outer Wilds is about going into the dark beyond with no map. Most of us do that daily on the internet. Except we didn't pick the ship, because we just used whatever came with the computer. This video is sponsored by Opera GX, which is the one I actually use. The ad blocker runs at browser level, no extension, just like this, off and on. Force Dark Mode stops bright sights from flashbanging you at night. There's a free VPN built in for 3 regions, Asia, America, and Europe. Useful when a horror film lands everywhere except where you want it. The part I actually spend most time on is GX mods. You can theme the whole browser, and it's stackable like using wallpaper from one mod, sounds from another, music from a third. Call me basic, but I love my eerie Resident Evil background noise mixed with a Silent Hill wallpaper. And switching over takes about 10 seconds. Settings, synchronization, import. Bookmarks, history, saved logins, all of it is there. And Chrome extensions still work. It's free and the link is at the top of the description. The browser I'd want in the dark with me. Now, let's go back to the beginning. We wake up next to a campfire. Someone's roasting a marshmallow nearby. A banjo's playing somewhere off in the distance. A planet sits low on the horizon and the whole world smells like wood smoke and pine. And this opening is the first move in a design so precise that nobody has managed to copy it. So when critics say Outer Wilds is impossible to replicate, they usually mean you can only play this game once, which we'll get to a little later, because that's not what I mean. I mean the thing itself can't be rebuilt. And by the end of this video, I want to have given you several reasons why. Every one of them is a decision Mobius Digital made that no other studio has been willing to make since. The first one is already on screen, right here at this cozy campfire. Because Outer Wilds has no collectibles, no combat, no unlockables, and no upgrades of any kind. And that emptiness is deliberate.
How do we know if players are exploring because they're curious, or if they're exploring for some other reason? You get rid of the other reasons.
Everything in this game is knowledge, which is reason 1 why nobody else can make a game like this. And it's also why you should stop watching and go play it if you haven't. Because a game like this can't tell you anything up front without spoiling its own engine. Outer Wilds exists partly because of a Zelda game the director loved, and partly because of one that broke him. Alex Beecham has said that Skyward Sword goes out of its way to over-explain everything, and that it had no faith in its players' own curiosity, which made him wonder whether you could build a game with no explicit objectives at all, that still rewarded someone for being curious. And that idea came from a small moment in Wind Waker. There's this photographer with a gallery, and every picture on his wall is a real location somewhere in the game, so a player could look at that and ask, "What is that weird statue?" And he'll happily tell you where he took it. And then nothing happens. If you're curious, you go and find it, and if you're not, you never do. That's the entire design philosophy of Outer Wilds in a single optional conversation in a Zelda game. We're on a planet called Timber Hearth, a little village built from rope and planks. A launch tower that's really just a hollowed out tree and a rocket on top that looks duct taped together from whatever was lying around. And scattered through it, our people, the Hearthians. Four-eyed creatures that look like they evolved from frogs. And for some reason, they are obsessed with space travel. We're playing as one of them, the youngest member of the Outer Wilds Venture space program, ready to join my fellow frogs by pointing my own rocket at the sky to see what's out there. Now watch what the game does with these first few minutes. Up at the observatory, there's a Hearthian called Hornfels, who can't stop talking about an ancient race called the Nomai, and who mentions a planet called Dark Bramble. Avoid that one, he says. Whatever you do. And the museum he's standing in is full of exhibits about the solar system as a deliberate callback to that same Wind Waker gallery. It all plays like small town texture, however it's everything but that. Every name, every offhand line, every object in this village is a threat this game pulls on hours from now. The Dark Bramble warning should be taken very seriously. The Nomai are at the heart of this cosmic mystery we're about to unfold. Even the campfire is one of the most important objects in this game. It's honestly insane what it represents, and I can't wait to show you later. On the way out of the observatory, there's this statue, clearly not built by Hearthian hands. As we get close, it turns and opens its eyes. Light beams appear and what looks like our memories flash by. Everything we just did. Right there. At the time, it feels like a weird cinematic moment, but in reality, it's the moment the trap springs and the engine of the entire game turns on. Which means it's time to get in the rocket and see exactly why Outer Wilds is impossible to replicate. So we launch and the solar system that opens up is small. We can see the whole thing from our cockpit. A sun in the middle and a handful of worlds orbiting close, just like the blueprints in our spaceships show us. This one right here is a planet wrapped in storms. Another one is a pair of twins trading sand back and forth. There's a hollow world slowly falling to pieces. It's strange because after an opening that told us nothing, this feels like the game is opening its entire hand. Here's everything. Go wherever you want. I'm intrigued by this one called Brittle Hollow, and while I'm exploring the planet that's slowly crumbling underneath me, I'm starting to see this is the second thing Outer Wilds does so well. The campfire withheld everything. This withholds nothing. The entire map is just open. Without any locked regions or need to get stronger, it means every world in the system is within reach, which raises the most important question the game is daring anyone who plays it to ask. If we're able to go anywhere right now, what's stopping us from just, I don't know, finishing it? The answer to that question is the whole engine. But I'm not thinking about any of that right now because I'm too busy watching a moon bombard the crust under my feet and send the pieces falling into a black hole. I'm getting somewhere with my research and I've completely lost track of time. And then I look to the sky. We wake up next to a campfire. The same Hearthian, the same marshmallow, and the same banjo in the distance. Everywhere you go online, there are people telling anyone playing Outer Wilds not to look anything up. So I didn't. And when this happened, I had no idea what I was looking at. I thought I died because I did something wrong, seeing how the game still won't explain anything. It's at this point that most games would give you a day 2 counter, but we just get dropped back at the campfire until we figure out what just happened on our own. And as it turns out, we're in a time loop, 22 minutes from campfire to supernova. And then it starts over. But to understand why this works so well in Outer Wilds, we need to go back to when this was still some half-finished idea with a spaceship and no clue what the game actually was. At that point, the developers decided to stop building mechanics and build an emotional prototype instead. And imagine yourself here. You're roasting a marshmallow over a fire. Then you're standing on a little planet and the sun explodes. The planets go out one by one, like a fireworks show, and then it reaches you. Outer Wilds was built with the supernova and campfire before anything else in the game, and every single thing that got built afterwards was built around that one feeling. So when I say the campfire matters, this is what I mean. We're sitting at the thing the entire game grew out of. Our ship resets, the crust fragments are whole again. Nothing is really stopping us from finishing the game on the first loop, except we don't yet know how. The entire map being open doesn't make the game easier, because it's the setup for a game where the only locked doors are the ones inside our own heads. That's why at this point, most games would hand us a quest marker.
Quest markers are your friend. Except you can't believe number 6. Quest markers are the first evil.
Beecham's problem is that markers let you go through a story without ever understanding why you're going through the story. It's why modern maps like this are nothing short of panic-inducing. So now we know why the Campfire intro refuses to teach us anything. It simply can't. Because in a game where knowledge is the progression, every piece of information it hands out for free is a piece of the game engine itself it gives away. So, it doesn't. It lets us find the pieces. And this is another one of the reasons why other games can't copy Outer Wilds by borrowing a piece of it. Sure, a game can build a time loop. In fact, many have. But it's just a gimmick until your entire progression is built on knowledge. And almost no studio will do that because it means someone could beat the whole game in 22 minutes if a friend just told them how. Reason number 2. Progress is knowledge, not power. Most game design literally exists to stop exactly that from happening. Outer Wilds is built on top of it. So we're here at the Campfire, on what we now realize is loop 2 of who knows how many. We know the clock is already running, and that's the only tool this game is ever going to give us. Outer Wilds has a simple structure. We learn a fact about how its world works. We use that fact to form a guess about something else on a completely different planet. We fly out to test it, and the game lets us find out immediately whether we were right. And that last part is what everybody skips, because the game lets us check. There really is nothing standing between us and the answer. So if we think we figured something out, we can go and be right or be wrong within a couple of minutes. That might sound small, but it's the most expensive thing in this entire game, and I'll show you why later. For now, let me show you the purest version of it. Early on, we can notice something is wrong with the map. There are 5 main worlds right here, and at this point we know the gimmick of each and every one of them. But there's a 6th world. It shows up in Nomai writing, in old photographs, in scrawled notes about a moon that isn't always there. I completely missed it in my playthrough, but when I started paying attention to it, there it is orbiting a planet. And then when I look again, it's gone. So we get in our janky spaceship and fly out to it, but it just disappears when we try to land on it. This confused me to no end, because I was still assuming I needed to unlock something to reach it, but there is no version of this problem that gets solved by finding an item. The only thing standing between us and that moon is that we do not yet understand what it is. And then we find the Nomai's research, the quantum rule that reads, quantum objects move when nobody is observing them. Watch one, and it stays there. Look away, and it's somewhere else. So the solution is to take a picture of it. It's that simple. But without that information, we'd never be able to investigate it. And it's there, solid ground under us. A place that was on the map the whole time and could not be reached until we knew one sentence about how reality works here. So now that we've got that, the same structure shows up everywhere. Giant's Deep has a deadly electrical barrier between us and its core. There's no way to fly through it, but there are jellyfish floating around down here, drifting straight through it. And stepping out of our ship into a dark ocean feels like a terrible idea. I genuinely did not expect thalassophobia in Outer Wilds. I must have wasted an entire loop just debating if I should get out or not. In real life, a jellyfish's tentacles are the parts that hurt or kill you. Here, they're the way in. We swim straight through them, into the jellyfish, and let it carry us down through the barrier. And then there's the one we were warned about. Hornfels told us to stay away from dark bramble. Whatever you do. Now we're going in anyway, and it's immediately obvious he was right. This place is horrifying, and the anglerfish in here will send us straight back to the campfire. Until we find a note telling us they're completely blind. They hunt by sound, so we can cut our engines and drift past them in silence. Every obstacle is exactly as dangerous as it was before we got devoured. What changed is that we know something we didn't know before. So that's the engine. Learn, theorize, test immediately. A world with no locks in it except the ones inside our own head. And by now, the question this video poses is starting to get very loud. Because this works. It works so well that an indie game beat AAA titans to win best games at the BAFTAs. So where is everyone else? Where are the Outer Wilds likes? The game's writer, Kelsey Beecham, explains what they actually built.
We made a game just for explorers.
And that turns out to be the whole answer. To understand what that means, we need a model from 1996. Richard Bartle was studying multiplayer games and noticed that players tend to fall into 4 groups, depending on what they actually want out of a game. So he mapped them onto the 4 card suits. Killers want to act on other players. This one's pretty obvious. Achievers want to act on the world, chasing the score, the time, the completion. Socializers want to interact with other players, building communities. And explorers want to interact with the world itself, poking at it to see what it does. Which is kind of insane, because they built Outer Wilds for the last group and made peace with losing the rest.
There are plenty of people who play the game and they just bounce off it, and they just don't get it. And that's okay.
It's a strange thing for a developer to say out loud. So there's reason 3. To replicate Outer Wilds, a studio has to walk into a pitch meeting and explain that 3/4 of the market will bounce off the product. And there is no plan to fix that. And reason 4 is worse, because you can't really advertise it either. Everything interesting about Outer Wilds is a spoiler. Describing what makes it special is the same as ruining it. So the team ended up saying as little as possible about their own game.
Because it's a game that's so easy to spoil, you try to say as little as possible, which makes it hard to sell. They won't buy a mystery, but they may try out a mystery and then be like, oh my god, you have to try this.
Which is a large part of why the Game Pass mattered so much to this game. They needed a way to get people playing without having to explain what they'd be playing. But none of that explains the strangest part. To understand the next reason, we need to talk about something I call the Dominion problem. When a game invents a genuinely new mechanic, the game industry usually eats it. In 2008, a board game called Dominion introduced an idea that you build your deck while you're playing it. Within a few years, there were dozens of deck builders, and now there's a whole video game genre built on it, from Slay the Spire onward. That's the normal outcome, and it's a good thing. We're currently looking at the rise of cozy cosmic horror fishing games because of 2023's Dredge. Dredge-likes are pretty much inevitable at this point, but 7 years after Outer Wilds, there's still no Outer Wilds-like. And that isn't because nobody is working in this space. Return of the Obra Dinn, The Case of the Golden Idol, Chants of Sonar, Tunic, Blueprints, Animal Well, The Witness. Most of these are fantastic games and they lock progress behind understanding rather than upgrades. So why does none of it feel the same? In almost all of those games, the thing you're figuring out is a puzzle that a designer built and hid. It's a very good puzzle and solving it feels great, but there's an author on the other side of it who put the answer there for you to find. Outer Wilds is doing that, but it's also doing something completely different. The solar system runs on its own rules whether we're there or not. Sand drains from one twin into the other on a schedule. Brittle Hollow crumbles into its black hole because the volcanic moon keeps shooting at it. The storms on Giant's Deep keep raging no matter what. We're doing science on a world that would keep running even if we never showed up. So remember when I said the most expensive part of this game was letting us check our answers immediately? Well, this is why. If a player can form a hypothesis about anything at any moment and go test it right away, then the world has to actually hold up under testing. Every planet has to be simulated all the time, because a player might come at it from an angle the developers never planned for.
Because Outer Wilds is a game about simulation and about truth in systems, that was top of my list for things I didn't want to do, was fake anything.
So I put it to the test. I left my ship parked on Brittle Hollow and went to the other side of the solar system. A piece of crust broke off underneath it, and the ship fell into the black hole while nobody was watching. And yep, confirmed, there it goes. The art director put it more bluntly.
The joke we always make about Outer Wilds is it's the game you're not supposed to make.
To build a puzzle box, you need a puzzle box. To build Outer Wilds, you need a convincing solar system that works. That's reason 5. An enormous amount of engineering spent on a game that 3/4 of its customers will bounce off. And that was the point from the very beginning. The founding idea was to make a game where the player character is not the center of the world, which is a lovely design principle, but also turns out to be the story, because we're not playing as the first Hearthian to wake up in this solar system and start asking questions. Everything we've been walking through belonged to someone else. The ruins on Ember Twin, the observatory on Brittle Hollow, the research notes telling us about the quantum rule, all of it was built by the Nomai hundreds of thousands of years before we woke up. And they came here for exactly the same reason we're out here now. Somewhere in deep space, their instruments picked up a signal. Whatever was sending it read as older than the universe itself, which should be impossible. They called it the Eye of the Universe, and they turned their ship around to go and find it. Nobody knew where the Eye actually was, so the Nomai built something extraordinary to find it. A machine that could take the memories of a single moment and send them 22 minutes into the past. Try something, record the result, send that knowledge back, and try again, forever, if they needed to. The only way to generate enough power was with a supernova, and they were prepared to cause one. But they never got to turn it on. A comet full of ghost matter passed through the inner system and killed all of them, and the machine sat there unpowered for 250,000 years, and then the sun died on its own. That supernova poured exactly the energy the project had always needed into a machine with nobody left to use it. And it needed one more thing, a mind to send those memories back into. That's what the statues were for, and the one on Timber Hearth was doing the exact job it was built to do. It just did it to the wrong species, hundreds of thousands of years too late. And there's a second, even more interesting thread running under all of this, which we find by listening. The signal scope picks up music from across the system. Everyone else in Outer Wilds Ventures launched before we did, and they're all out there alone, playing Into the Dark. Chert on Ember Twin with the drums, Rebeck on Brittle Hollow, Gabbro in a hammock on Giant's Deep, Feldspar somewhere in Dark Bramble, gone for years but still audible. So we chase the sound and find someone sitting at a fire glad to see us. The first Hearthian I found was Rebeck, an archaeologist playing the banjo, anxious about basically everything involving space travel, and out here anyway because they couldn't resist uncovering the universe's history. My favorite thing is that none of them are playing their own song. The composer wrote all of them playing the same tune, so that wherever you are in this solar system, you're hearing a piece of something larger. He calls it a premonition of the ending. And what's fascinating is that there is no fixed order to any of this. Some people learn about the comet filled with ghost matter before they've heard of the Eye. Some people work out what's causing the time loop long before they find out what it was built for. Everyone assembles the little band of explorers in a different sequence too. Beecham describes it as the clue web. It doesn't matter where you enter the web because all the clues are scattered across different planets, but they all point towards each other and the same curiosity at the center of it. Every person who plays this builds the same history in a shape nobody else will repeat. That's what happens when the world is already finished before the player arrives. There comes a point where we know enough to finish, and the game asks us to do something strange with that knowledge. To end the loop, we have to go to the machine that's been resurrecting us for the entire game and switch it off ourselves. All that's left now is 22 minutes. So we fly into Dark Bramble, to the wreck of the ship that brought the Nomai here, and we finish the job they started. And then the ending does something I still find hard to talk about. We arrive at the Eye, the thing the Nomai crossed deep space for and never reached. We navigate through a strange purple planet until eventually we enter a dark forest full of soft lights and quantum versions of all the explorers. One by one they end up at the fire, and each instrument joins the other, until the song we've been picking up in fragments across the whole game finally assembles into one piece of music. A campfire. The same thing the entire game grew out of, back when it was a messy prototype and there wasn't a time loop or a solar system or a story yet. This to me, is one of the most powerful moments in my gaming career, and it's why Outer Wilds is an unforgettable experience. The ending is assembled out of our own playthrough. Every person at the fire is someone we went looking for, in an order nobody could choose for us, for reasons that were ours. The song is more beautiful because we spent 20 hours collecting its pieces without knowing they were pieces. It's the perfect ending because it's made out of what we did. That's reason number 6. Outer Wilds can't be replicated because of this moment. A studio can create a game with a time loop. It can copy knowledge-based progression, but what it can't copy is an ending built out of a path the player made for themselves, because that requires the entire game underneath it to have been unmapped in the first place. We're looking at a game that can only be played once, but that statement doesn't do Outer Wilds enough justice. It makes it sound like a limitation, something unfortunate about the game that we forgive because the rest is so good. But that's not what it is, because the game is still here. The discovery isn't, and the discovery was the part it was actually made of. That's the final reason, and that's the reason there's a community around this game that has organized itself entirely around protecting it. Ask for help in an Outer Wilds space and people get really careful with you. They check what you've already found. They ask whether you actually want the answer before they give it. Thousands of people protecting an experience for a stranger they will never meet because they know it can't be handed back.
We wanted to make something that couldn't have been made any other way.
And that's exactly what they did. I need to give a massive shout out to NoClip for their Outer Wilds documentary, to Alex Beecham's GDC talk, and to Stephen Lake's interview with Kelsey Beecham. Every developer quote in this video came from one of those 3, and all of them are worth your time. And another huge thank you to all my Patreon supporters. If you want the research doc behind this, it's all available there. Make sure to check it out if you want to help me decide on the next video topic. And if you're not ready to leave the dark beyond just yet, there's another video on the screen right now. I'll see you in the next one.